Perfect. I already see that we have over 40 participants that have joined the session. Welcome everybody and good morning everybody. We are very pleased that you joined today's session on the dairy business opportunities in Ethiopia. We are expecting a good attendance rate. We have over 120 people that subscribe. So we will see more participants flooding in. In the meantime, we can already start with some practicalities before we actually start this webinar. So my name is Raad and I'm coordinating the TRAIDE Ethiopia program, and I will be your moderator for today. Before we actually start, we have some practicalities. One of them, this is that I think that everybody that is joining the session and is speaking is based in Addis Ababa. As our tests are looking very good, I think that the internet will continue and work just fine. So let's hope for a good online session. In this meantime, this session will be recorded. The session will take about 1.5 hours. And afterwards, we can also share a recording so everybody can look back at this session. In the meantime, everybody that is joining the session here and are not speaking are always muted because we expect over 100 people. This is because otherwise we will have so many people speaking. Of course, you can ask your questions. If you have a question to any of the speaker, you can ask your question in the Q&A box. So please do not use the general chat, but specifically the Q&A. And there we will address it after each individual session. We'll make sure to try to address as many questions as possible, but if we get too many, we might have to be selective in the terms of the questions. But then afterwards, after this session, we'll also follow up in a survey. So if you always want to still have a question which hasn't been answered, you can always reach out to us. Because that's basically our follow-up. So after this session, we also want to reach out to everybody and for you to assess how everything went, and you can also provide your input there. So personally, I'm looking forward to a very nice and interactive session. Because we have a very tight and busy schedule today, I would like to go forward with our session. For that, I would like to give the floor to our agricultural counselor, Mr. Meeuwes Brouwer from the Netherlands Embassy in Addis Ababa.
Good morning and welcome, dear participants, in our webinar on the developments and opportunities in the dairy value chain in Ethiopia. As Sander already mentioned, the number of participants, more than 100, shows that there is a growing interest in the dairy in Ethiopia. For the ones who don't know me, as Sander already mentioned, my name is Meeuwes Brouwer. I'm the agricultural counselor of the Netherlands Embassy in Addis. Together with my colleague Malet Desi, who is also participating in this webinar, we are representing the Netherlands Ministry of Agriculture, Nature and Food Quality. And we do our best to support and to facilitate the Dutch agribusiness in Ethiopia. Dear participants, the dairy sector is one of our 3 priority agricultural subsectors. On one hand, we see opportunities, possibilities for doing business in the Ethiopian dairy value chain. At the other hand, we also see possibilities for bilateral cooperation on the level of the government, as well on the level of the knowledge and research institutes. At the same time, I believe the Netherlands has a lot to offer, in particular on dairy, concerning high value inputs, modern technology and knowledge transfer. The Ethiopian government itself also is focusing with its national agricultural strategy on dairy and promotes the developments of a more efficient and sustainable dairy value chain. For this reason, we decided to organize several dairy activities closely with our partners here in Ethiopia and in the Netherlands. Partners like the Netherlands Development Organization, SNV, the Trade Foundation, the Netherlands East Africa Dairy Partnership, but also the Dairy North Africa Partnership. We are in close contact with them, and we would like to work together to promote the development of the dairy value chain in Ethiopia. I would like in particular mention the ongoing Dairy Bridge program in Ethiopia, financed by the Dutch government and implemented by SNV, because this dairy program is not only focusing on the smallholders in Ethiopia in dairy, but also recently more and more on the more efficient and commercial dairy farmers and processors. And in my opinion, this gives an opportunity for companies, for organizations to do business in Ethiopia. As agricultural team within the Netherlands Embassy and the Netherlands Ministry of Agriculture, we have decided to make a video on the untapped opportunities in Ethiopian dairy. This video, dear participants, is brand new, and today during this webinar we will launch this video and show it to you. Before showing this video, I wish you all a successful webinar and fruitful discussions on the dairy value chain in Ethiopia. Thank you very much for your attention.
Ethiopia, a country endowed with vast and diverse natural resources, has the most ideal condition for dairy farming.
Ethiopia is a country that has over 70 million cattle population. This makes it one of the largest cattle population in Africa. Out of the 70 million cattle population, over 14 million of those are dairy cows.
However, the country has not utilized its potential for dairy farm properly. Unfortunately, as compared to the big potential it has, the production and consumption for dairy products is very low. In Ethiopia, about 98% of milk is produced by smallholder farmers, with low productivity due to the use of traditional methods. Of the total milk production, about 78 to 95% is processed, consumed, and marketed through informal market channels.
The dairy sector in Ethiopia is one of the sectors that is in the process of transforming, with a shift from smallholder-based production to a more commercialized one. There is a lot of potential that can be attained in participating or involving in the sector.
This is the Alpha Farms. We started in 2008. Mr. Vlier, a Dutch investor, started this farm. He started with importing pure Holstein cows from Holland. And nowadays we are milking 150 cows daily in production. And beside that, of course, we have our young livestock, the future, we call it. So we are producing daily around 3,000 liters a day now.
We are Holland Dairy and we have been active in Ethiopia for the last 10 years. We are a dairy processing factory mainly focused on yogurt, pasteurized milk, strawberry yogurt, cheese and some other dairy products.
These companies are slowly but surely transforming the sector by increasing production and productivity through the use of improved technology, procedure, feed, and breed. But the number of such companies that are engaged in modern commercial farming is not more than 1%. And this means that the supply shortage of milk is huge. The gap between the supply and demand for dairy products in the local market is enormous. Hence, the sector is ready to absorb many additional operators. Today, The total national consumption of milk in Ethiopia stands at 3.6 million tons per year, and the total national milk production is estimated to be about 4.69 billion liters, with a per capita consumption of only 19 liters of milk per year. This shows that Ethiopia's second largest population in Africa has a huge market opportunity for dairy products.
Ethiopia is a market with a huge potential. The dairy consumption compared with other African countries is still quite low. The population is growing. Also the spending power of people is improving, so there is a lot of potential.
We believe there is still a lot of room to increase the involvement of the Netherlands, both private sector and government, to create a sustainable development in the dairy sector in Ethiopia.
The producers who invest in Ethiopia can also target the export market in the East African region. The Ethiopian government, which sees the dairy sector as one of the economic drivers, has made it a priority in its development strategy. Based on the policy directives, the government provides a range of incentives to dairy investors. Furthermore, within 10 years, the government has planned to expand the use and adoption of more commercialized production systems through increasing the proportion of improved cattle breeds from 2.7% to 17%. In order to meet these targets in the dairy sector, the government envisions active and extensive participation of private investors.
The cattle population in Ethiopia is really very large. However, the technical performance of these animals is rather low still. TRAIDE Nutrition helps these farmers by helping them compose better performing rations.
እንደ ትራይድ ኒውትሪሽን አኒማል ፊድ ላይ ስፔሻላይዝ ያደረገ ካምፓኒ ስለሆነ ከኢትዮጵያን ዳይሪ ሴክተር ፋርመሮች ጋር በቅርብ ርቀት ሆኖ የሚያስፈልጋቸውን የቴክኒካል ሰፖርት ሰፕላይ በማድረግ ፊዲንግ እና ፊዲንግ ፎርሙሌሽን በመስጠት የተለያዩ ለዳይሪ ሴክተሩ ግብአት የሚሆኑ ፕሮዳክቶች አሉ። አማራጭ በማቅረብ የኢትዮጵያን ዳይሪ ሴክተር ትራንስፎርሜሽን ለማድረግ እዚህ እንገኛለን።
Although the potential is large and the opportunities are many, the Ethiopian dairy sector faces various challenges.
Yeah, the dairy sector in Ethiopia, it's really challenging and it's really different if you compare it to other countries. The challenges we have is of course the feed and the animal health. Our main challenge is to buy quality feed because we are really focusing on the quality of the milk, but to make quality milk the main thing is quality feed.
The biggest challenge that we have is to get enough milk of high quality. So potential investors that are interested to bring more milk of the highest quality are always welcome to us and can be sure that there will be a market for their milk.
The agriculture team within the embassy works with different Ethiopian government partners to alleviate these challenges faced by the Dutch private sector operating in Ethiopia.
There are various programs that are supported by the Netherlands Embassy to increase dairy sector production and productivity and alleviate the challenges in the sector. One of the programs implemented by the Netherlands government to support the dairy sector is called Bridge.
Starting from 2014 up to 2019, 2018 they support a very big project, the so-called IDGET. It changed many farmers. Almost the project was working on 65,000 households during that time. In Bridge we are working with 120,000 households. It's double of it.
We are now engaging with the different players in the sector, hoping that by working with the different segments of the value chain, we can support Ethiopia to go through the transformation of the sector.
So the Dutch embassy is really the genuine and the honest supporter of the program. Even as a country, I cannot find a single country supporting like Dutch are doing in Ethiopia.
The Dutch embassy is really well connected with the Dutch community, especially the Dutch investors in Ethiopia. They are well informed of the current situation in the country, and they have a very good network. And that specifically, that network is helping us often when we try to get things moving.
Very, very, very nice video. Thank you, Meeuwes. Thank you, Embassy, for this premium. Very informative, and thank you always, Meeuwes, also for your speech. Moving on with the program, today, what can everybody expect? So basically, we will move afterwards with a presentation about all these general business opportunities of doing business in Ethiopia. After which we will have an interactive session with 3 very experienced companies that have already been doing business in Ethiopia for quite some time. Then afterwards, Rines from SNV will further explain about their program, which you just also saw something about. And then afterwards, we'll move towards wrapping up this session with Malet explaining more about an upcoming event, the ALEC event at the end of October. And then at the end, we will ask Mr. Meeuwes again to close this session. So moving on, for those of you that do not know me yet, my name is Sander de Raad, and I'm the coordinator of the TRAIDE Ethiopia program. TRAIDE Ethiopia is part of the TRAIDE Foundation. We have offices in the Netherlands, in Rwanda, and since April we started with the new TRAIDE program in Ethiopia. The Dutch Embassy has asked us to organize this session because as the TRAIDE Foundation, we very often support the Dutch Embassy with their agenda related to everything with the transition from aid to trade. So the TRAIDE program provides extension services not only to the embassy but also to the private sector for us to increase sustainable trade and investment to and with Ethiopia. We are trying to support companies, have companies actually come into the country. We are trying to support companies to survive, to thrive, and also to do, while they're at it, to invest in a responsible manner. For this, we always work with strategic partners in every country. In Ethiopia, we work very closely, not only with the Dutch Embassy, but also with the Ethiopian Netherlands Business Association. For this specific session, the Embassy has asked us to look into the business opportunities for dairy investments in Ethiopia. For this, for the last months, we have been developing a business opportunity report summarizing these investment opportunities. Should you be interested in doing business in Ethiopia, you can always reach out to our team in the Netherlands, but also our local team here. And together with our strategic partners, we are here to help you with your plans. So that's about the TRAIDE Ethiopia program. I would now like to give the floor to Helen Gattal, who has been working very hard on developing this business opportunity report on dairy investments in Ethiopia. Helen, could you please take it away?
Thank you, Sander. As Sander mentioned, we have been working on updating the business opportunity report of dairy for Ethiopia for the past few weeks. Basically, this is a highlight of that report. So for anybody interested to go much in depth on that, I recommend that you read the whole report. So for the presentation, the outline is divided into 4 sections. So basically, I will first highlight the general overview or the country context in Ethiopia, followed by a brief discussion on major trends in the Ethiopian dairy sector, and then go into the challenges of the dairy sector and finalize by discussing the investment opportunities that we've identified. For the sake of time, I will speed up on
Helen, we don't hear you anymore. Let us check how we can solve this issue. I think Helen is close to Sander, so maybe she can jump behind the computer of Sander. Also, Sander is not there anymore. Maybe their building has has an issue. Yeah, they're both left the webinar. Let us see if they can resolve this in 30 seconds. Otherwise, we can move on to the panel discussion and we do the business opportunity report later. I think that would be a great solution. Let's just wait till Sander comes back to me. Helen, are you back?
Are we back? Yeah, I think so.
Yes, you are back. Perfect.
Okay, the internet just faltered for a bit.
No worries, continue.
Okay.
Helen, given the time, would you maybe otherwise try to jump towards more the challenges and the investment opportunities? Because apologies everybody, but we just had to switch to 4G because the internet here went out.
Let me also switch off my camera. Titus, would it be okay if you take over the control and then go into the third section?
Yes, I will.
Yeah. So just to give you an overview before discussing the challenges, I mean, technically for Ethiopian case, the value chain is not so smooth. So we have producers that are characterized into four. So rural smallholders, urban, peri-urban farmers, pastoralists, and then of course large scale farms. And all these producers supply to different collectors. So within the collection, we have farmers cooperatives, farmers unions, milk collection centers, individual collectors, and large collectors. So all the producers supply to these different collection channels that then supply processors. And in processing, we have large scale processors as well as micro and small processors. For the most part, there are collectors and these unions that supply these processors, but in some cases, these processors directly work with farmers as outgrowers, so they collect from farmers themselves as well. And then after processing, it goes into distribution, and for the most part, it's retailers and supermarkets that are used as outlets. But there are also animal product retails that specialize in only animal products that sell to consumers. So in Ethiopia, there is both informal and formal market, and as you saw on the video, about 95% of it goes through the informal market, which basically means there's no record of trading and there's no formal registration required, which is also one of the challenges that we will be discussing when we're talking about processing. But now going into the challenges that also highlight the gaps that can be filled by the private sector and to some extent by development organizations as well. So looking into production aspect of the dairy sector, there is high fluctuation in milk production. This is mainly because of the unstable supply of feed or fodder, and the seasonality also, which for those farmers that use grazing land. So it's good to know that about 97% of the milk produced in Ethiopia comes from 97–98% comes from smallholders. So seasonality in terms of availability of grass becomes an issue. Also, crop residue becomes an issue. So this is one challenge that is faced, and that could be addressed as an opportunity by investors when we see later on. Disease prevalence is another issue that is a challenge for the production level. Also low milk productivity and quality, because about also 97% of the local cattle, even though there is high number of cattle in the country, it's local breed. So the local breed is genetically low in production or low productivity. So this is a big challenge. Then lack of simple
Helen, I think you're gone again. Maybe it's the 4G this time. Sander is still there.
Yes, apologies for this. We are now asking Helen to just switch the connection to see whether that would work again. Apologies for this, everybody.
Otherwise, Sander, can you continue?
Yes, of course. Maybe Titus, if you can move on towards the next slide, moving to investment opportunities. I think that for most of you, this is the most important part of this webinar, because of course we want to see not only to the challenges, and I hope that there are some attendees in this group that might be able to jump onto these challenges, but that also of course presents the obvious opportunities. We will later on share the business opportunity report with you as well, so you can go into more depth. It describes everybody in detail. Until Helen joins the session, I will pick it up and I'll do my utmost best to do so. What Helen tried to describe in the next slides are also present the opportunities mostly related to dairy production. So within Ethiopia, you have a big supply gap between feed and fodder. So a lot of companies that would, for instance, jump into feed and fodder production and supply would see that there's a potential very high market demand for that. And not only the feed and fodder supply itself, but also the seeds to grow the feed and fodder. As also presented in the video, there is a large supply gap in the amount of milk. So a lot of the processors, they are not running on the maximum capacity, and they would like, they are just looking for high quality and good quality milk. So any company that could provide good quality milk in larger numbers are bound to find a lot of willing buyers, not only in Addis Ababa, but also in other places. Of course, and we'll also see that in the Q&A, there were some questions raised about, for instance, animal health services, how that is going. I think that later on we can address that question with the panelists, but especially opportunities. There are many opportunities with input supplies, but also animal health services, artificial intelligence, AI, artificial insemination services, and also improved breeds and genetics. So we do see that there are some companies that are just starting here, and they already find a massive market of everybody that is looking for better cows with larger, that can produce more milk. Titus, can you go to the next slide? Moving on towards processing. What we see in the whole supply chain, there are quite some challenges as well to access the quantity of milk. So some of these processors, as already mentioned, they are looking for good quality milk. And of course, it's in part because of the infrastructure is lacking, which also presents the obvious opportunities for companies that can jump into that gap. In terms of the development of new products, the market in Ethiopia is quite infant. So I was very pleased when Holland Dairy just started introducing, for instance, cheese, Gouda cheese, but also strawberry yogurt. So you can see that there's a lot of demand for these kind of products, and especially companies that can start to develop longer shelf life products such as UHT milk or cheese. They would find many opportunities not only in domestic markets, but perhaps also find potential exports markets in the surrounding countries such as Sudan and Eritrea, Somaliland, etc. Titus, could you move to the next one? Yeah, and then the last one is, of course, there are obvious opportunities in more of the cross-cutting areas. So there's a big demand for good quality equipment and machinery. There is a demand for technical advisory services, and with a lot of, and that is basically a cross-cutting item that we see everywhere in the country, is if organizations and companies can provide attractive financial solutions and services, they will be able to untap a massive market in Ethiopia. I think that in one of the slides, Helen summarized this, that Ethiopia is also well known as being a sleeping giant. The market is at this point underdeveloped, but with almost 115 million people, growing milk consumption patterns and very ambitious aspirations of the Ethiopian government, we do see that there are many, many opportunities for Dutch companies, international investors, also local investors to jump onto these opportunities. So I think, and apologies for this, of course, there are also many investment incentives which you can find here for investors that would like to come to Ethiopia. So I think that is a wrap up on this business opportunity report presentation. Again, apologies for this internet delay. We were hoping that this wouldn't happen. But if you would have any other questions, would like to get to know more about the business opportunities in Ethiopia, we will share with you the business opportunity report afterwards. And of course, please also feel free to ask some questions on these opportunities. Let me see. Jana, I would propose for now, no, okay. So what I would propose for now, I see that we have two questions. Somebody is asking specifically about main health issues, questions about openness of Dutch investors towards joint ventures, and also some other bottlenecks. What I would propose is that we now move on towards the panel discussion, and we'll treat your questions there, because I think that some of the companies that are joining there are the best match to answer your questions. So again, apology for this, but we will now move on to the panel discussion. I would like to give the floor for this to our Agriculture Councillor again, Meeuwes Brouwer, to moderate this discussion.
Dear participants, we will now have a short panel discussions with a number of Netherlands-related companies already active in Ethiopia in dairy for many years. We have decided to choose a number of companies which are active in different stages in the dairy value chain. So we have a dairy farmer, we have an input supplier, and a dairy processors. For this, I would like already to introduce the names. First of all, we have Mr. Gerard Reinders. You already saw him in our video of Alpha Dairy Farms. Then we have Mr. Piet Schutter of Elema Koudijs, and if I'm correct, his colleague Ato Nega. And last but not least, we have Mr. Marijn Gores representing Holland Dairy in Ethiopia. I hope in this way we will have a fruitful discussion. So please continue, participants, with asking questions via the Q&A, and during this panel discussions we try to answer them. Like someone already mentioned, there is a question on animal health. Now that's maybe a nice question for Gerard later on. So we will also come back on that. And I also would like to invite Rinus van Klinken, the project manager. You also saw him in the video of SNV of the Bridge program, to also intervene or to add answering questions. For now, I would like to invite our panel members to introduce themselves shortly, their name, the company, and shortly the investments in dairy in Ethiopia. Because of time, we give you 1 minute max, and after that we continue with some of the questions I will ask you, and so we have an ongoing discussion. So maybe let's start in the beginning of the dairy chain. Gerard Reinders of Alpha Dairy Farms, can I give you the floor to introduce yourself shortly, company, and the investments in Ethiopia near the site?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I'm Gerard Reinders. I'm working for Alpha Farms since 2015. We are Alpha Farms. We are focused on the dairy sector, dairy milk. So we are milking at the moment around 150 cows in production. And beside that, we have, of course, on our young stock. Alpha Farms started in 2008. So yeah, it's for quite an old company already. Nowadays, we are producing just 2,500, 3,000 liters daily. Yeah, what I said, we're really focusing is on milk, quality milk, and beside the milk, we're also focusing on the genetics. So what we did, we imported a lot of Holstein Friesian cows from Holland or from Europe, also from Germany, actually. So we are selling also our bull calves to local farmers, to the AI centers from the government. This because of spreading out the Holstein genetics for local farmers, that they increased their production as well. I was really happy to see the previous slides because of our challenges. It started with feed, and then it started with animal health, and then it starts with Holstein genetics. So I really think that's the right points to discuss about in this panel discussion. Thank you. Thank you very much,
Gerard. Then I would like to give the floor to Mr. Piet Schutter of ALEC Koudijs and Ato Nega.
Thank you, Meeuwes. Good morning, participants. Thank you very much for joining, for your interest in Ethiopia. My name is Piet Schutter. I work for ALEC Koudijs Feed. We are based in Ethiopia, and we are a joint venture between De Heus from the Netherlands and ALEC Farms from Ethiopia. We've been active here for over 10 years, and we are the biggest producer and supplier of animal feed to the Ethiopian market. We're producing feed for poultry, but also for ruminants, so also for dairy cows. We see that there is a lot of potential in the market, so that's why we're happy to see you here today. And we welcome more investments in this vital industry for Ethiopia. Maybe to mention is that our focus is on supporting our customers, as it is for the Heus worldwide. As you saw in the movie and also in the slides, there's many smallholder farmers. So we are supporting them with managing their farm, and part of that is providing high quality feed. So that's a good news. We are available here. Our feed is available here. High quality commercial feed. I think in terms of some of the challenges that I'd like to add is that, of course, what is already mentioned is that there is a shortage of high quality roughage, for example. But also what we see is for our customers to switch to commercial feed is that there is a VAT, a tax of 15% that is added to our feed that our customers cannot offset because they cannot charge VAT on their milk. So that is one bottleneck at the moment. We think it's temporary, and we're actively involved and engaged with the government to see how we can overcome this hurdle for our customers. It's good to mention also that Alpha Farms is one of our customers, and I'm sure Gerard would be happy to explain his experience with us as a supplier of animal feed in Ethiopia. Thank you, Niels.
Thank you, Piet. Then we go to Mr. Marijn Gores of Holland Dairy. Marijn, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Meeuwes. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Marijn Gores. I'm General Manager of Holland Dairy. My colleague Louis Blaak was visible in the video, so he basically explained everything about our company. But to quickly repeat, we've been active since 2008 as a dairy company, and we produce from raw milk that we locally purchase. We produce natural yogurt, strawberry yogurt at the moment, so fruit yogurt hopefully in the future, cheese, pasteurized milk, and some adjacent dairy products such as butter, for example. Yeah, we currently mainly operate in the area of Addis Ababa and surroundings. And I think what we have in common with, for example, Piet, who just explained, we support smallholder farms in the area because we value very much purchasing local raw milk. That's also where the main challenge comes. We have two big challenges. One is scarcity in the market. I think it was already in the slides. There's a lot of demand for dairy products in the market, but the supply is in number of liters not enough. And there also comes the second issue that we encounter on a daily basis, which is quality. There's a lot of adulteration in the market, a lot of usage of medicines in the broader sense. And we are very picky on the quality that we get. So we are also helping smallholder farmers to upgrade their quality together with, I think, the companies in this call, also SMV. So there's a lot of support there, but we need to accelerate a little bit, if you ask me. In general, I think very interesting market opportunities, but very happy that the Alpha Farms of this world are also present in Ethiopia, because Piet is a supplier of Gerard, but Gerard is our biggest supplier then. And I think that is also one of the advantages here. Ethiopia is huge, it's a sleeping giant. But then again, there's a very strong connections between the companies, at least operating in this sector, to help each other out and in the end build a better dairy industry in Ethiopia. I think that is what we all have in common in this call.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your introduction. Already a lot has been said, but I would like to start with the second question to you, three of you, is why did you decide to invest in Ethiopia? Why not in Kenya, for example, of Uganda, where also dairy is developing quite well? Why Ethiopia? Maybe we start with, at the end of the value chain, with you, Marijn. Why did you invest as a dairy processor in Ethiopia? What are the advantages?
I think there are two main reasons. One is the macroeconomic level. It was already mentioned by Sander that when you compare it to surrounding countries, the dairy intake is very low per capita in this country. So the market opportunity is huge. The category is growing. There's a lot of demand. So as a brand, which we are, we're not just a processing firm, but I think we should really see each other as a brand here. There's a lot of potential to premiumize the products that we have, using marketing, using proper sales techniques, and selling our dairy products at a premium price with good quality. And on the other hand, we're also an impact investor, and we think that we should do good by doing business. And I think Ethiopia is, with the potential it has, also one of the countries that let's say needs a lot of proper investment, proper technology aid in order to develop these industries. And maybe my knowledge is lacking, but I think in the surrounding countries, especially Kenya, this is already going well. So we saw also from that side, from the impact side, an opportunity to develop this industry, which is lagging behind on other countries, in my personal opinion.
Thank you, Marijn. What about the Heus Koudijs, Piet?
Yeah, really quite similar reasons. Demographics, of course, one being one of them. Wanting to be part of the development of the market. That's very much what the Heus does also in other African countries. So for us, it's not necessarily either or, but we are in many countries also in Africa. And then also it was an opportunity. We were introduced to two Ethiopian entrepreneurs over 10 years ago, which was a good point of entry for us to start in the market together with, to also benefit from the local knowledge of our partners, combining that with the knowledge of the Heus on animal feed. I think that's a very powerful combination. And yes, I mean, the market is massive, and there's big opportunities. At the same time, I think also what fits the Heus is that we are a family-owned company. We always take a long-term view, and I think that is essential in Ethiopia. I don't think you can come here and get any quick gains and leave again, or you know, focus on the short term. You really need to focus on the long term. And you need to be able to do so as a company.
Thank you, Piet. Clear. Gerard, what about Alpha Farms?
Yeah, like Alpha in 2008, they saw that there was a huge gap in the demand of milk, and there was also a huge shortage of knowledge in the dairy industry. So the first investor of Alpha Farms decided in 2008 to start on a small scale dairy farming, and the first reason, of course, to produce milk and to bring milk into the market, but also on the other hand, sharing knowledge, how to manage a dairy farm, how to grow crops, etc. Yeah, that was actually the main reason. And what Marijn also said is like, by doing business is also by developing the country. And so the main reason for all farms to start here in Ethiopia was first the gap of the milk, the shortage of milk, and knowledge as well. So that was for them the reason to start here a dairy farm.
Thank you, Gerrit. Yes, a number of items have been said. I'm also referring to the two questions which came in. Sandra already mentioned them during the Q&A. One of them is, what about animal health? And the other one was about joint ventures. Maybe we take the first one, animal health. I remember, Gerard, that when we talk with each other, I visit your farm, you mentioned that animal health is really a challenge in Ethiopia, and there are some diseases which needs to be prevented, and we have to work more on that. Gerard, can you tell a bit more about the animal health status in Ethiopia?
Yeah,
what has to be done?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Like for us, we are here since 2008, and through those years, the last years, we faced a lot of difficult diseases, but also diseases which were new for us. So especially for us as a commercial farmer, but also for local farmers, it's really difficult to find the right vaccine. The availability of vaccines, first of all, is quite bad, and then second of all, the quality of those vaccines. So we as a commercial farmer, we are blessed that we can import vaccines from abroad. But for local farmers nowadays, it's really, really difficult to find the right vaccines. And so if we talk about the business opportunity, it will be a huge blessing for especially local farmers, was also for us, but that there will come a company who can supply really quality vaccines. And I talk about, for example, the foot and mouth disease. That's one of the biggest diseases here. We are importing it nowadays from abroad, from Botswana. But also I talk about IBR, BVD, etc., etc. So yeah, it's really a headache, especially for local farmers. They're really suffering with this. So a huge business opportunity is for me is that supply of quality vaccines and also payable for local farmers, of course. So yeah, it's a struggle.
Thank you for sharing this with us, Gerard. The question about the joint venture, Piet already mentioned that the Heus Koudhuis has a nice and professional joint venture with ALEMA in Ethiopia. I remember also that a week ago we got a request from a dairy farmer north of Addis, who also is looking for a Dutch joint venture partner to invest in a commercial farm of around 200 cows. So there are some requests coming in, and also in our embassy for joint venture partners from the Netherlands, just to share with you. My next question was more, what are the experience so far for the companies? In other words, what are the common pitfalls and challenges, and how to overcome these challenges? A number of them have already mentioned, but maybe Gerard, Piet, and Marijn, you want to add something. What are your main headaches, and how do you solve these pitfalls or challenges or headaches, how you want to call them?
So Marijn,
you want to speak, please?
Yeah, I think in general, I don't know what the background is of the participants, but you know, you are in a country other than the Netherlands, and doing business will be different from doing business in the Netherlands in general. And I think most people will be aware of that. And for me, what is really the experience in the first year that I've been here is that in the end, there's always a solution, and there's always you can always get things done. However, you don't know how long it will take. So you need to follow up things rigorously, and then it will happen in the end. So I think that is a general characteristic of Ethiopia, but I don't think that is only true for Ethiopia. I think that is quite similar for other countries as well. I think specifically for Ethiopia, what is also quite unique in our line of business is that we are sourcing all our raw materials, except for the premix, which contains the minerals and the vitamins. We source them all from Ethiopia. So that, of course, is a big contributor also to the development of Ethiopia. So it's a big opportunity on one hand. On the other hand, also, it can be a constraint at the moment. There's a big shortage of raw materials, partly because it's seasonal, and it's the rainy season at the moment, but also for other reasons, there is really an extreme shortage of some of the raw materials. So that is a given. I don't think that will be resolved in the next couple of years by itself. So what we are planning to do is to also become much more active in other parts of the value chain. And yeah, that is, so basically we're seeing this challenge and we're turning it into an opportunity. We will have better access to better quality raw materials. And at the same time, we're also able to work directly with farmers that are growing our raw materials.
Thank you, Piet. Marijn, you want to add something from
maybe
processing point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think adding to Piet's point, at least, so we are also sourcing a lot of our technology from the Netherlands. And there, one of the constraints is bureaucracy, meaning that when we get in very specific material, first of all, the Ethiopians are very open and welcoming to these investments, but sometimes the technology is so specific that it is hard, for example, to determine whether those machines are part of the tax holiday that we get as a foreign investor. So that's a part of the bureaucracy. The people basically stamping your documents for duty-free imports at the desk don't understand the specific dairy technology. So it's something I think that Piet also says it's something that you can overcome. It just takes a bit more time and a bit more persistency. And I must also say that the support, for, at least that we experience from the Dutch embassy and the agricultural team is very good on that part. I would also say that if they would not be in this call, by the way. The second one I think maybe might be more specific for our part in the value chain is that the competition is very aggressive. And to say it in a political way, they sometimes have a toolkit that doesn't apply to us playing by the rules. I think everybody in this call will then understand what I mean. And that is part of doing business, not only in Ethiopia, I think also in other parts of Africa, Latin America, things like that. So it's also, for me personally, one of the nice experiences. But yeah, sometimes it's very frustrating if you play by the rules and your competition in the market is this aggressive as they are. So that there are some challenges here and there.
Thank you, Marijn. Gerard, you already mentioned animal health. Feed was already mentioned. Maybe you can tell a bit more about your experience on genetics, semen, live cattle. You also mentioned that in the video already. How you see the future for genetics in Ethiopia? Is that a challenge for you as well, or a headache to get the right genetics?
Yeah, like I think Peter already mentioned the most of it, but like we have a really good relationship with the Ministry of Agriculture, actually. So if you talk about genetics, several times we're importing Holstein Friesians from Holland and semen as well. And it takes a bit time, but they're really open and willing to help you out with importing genetics, semen, live animals as well. So it can be a struggle with the slogan like never give up, and then everything will be done in the end. So
yeah, it's good to be positive and optimistic. I fully agree with you. Yeah. Because of time, we have just a few last minutes. Maybe you can tell the three of you in just a few words where you see, in what kind of fields you see opportunities for doing business for Dutch companies active in the dairy chain in Ethiopia. Can you mention these fields? It can be genetics, of course, can be feed, but maybe in a few words, where are the possibilities to really do business in Ethiopian dairy? And Gerard, maybe I come again to you.
Yeah, I'm really thinking, like I already mentioned, is of course the crop farming. It's actually for quality roughage feed, but also to supply peat from its raw materials. So for me, that's the biggest one. And then beside that is of course animal health. It can be minerals, vitamins, vaccines, whatever. And on the other hand, like if the feed and the animal health is organized, then we can start bringing in Holstein genetics and by semen or live animals. But first, before you bring them, we should try to manage the feed and the animal health first, because several companies here already imported Holstein Friesian cows without having good knowledge of dairy farming in Ethiopia. What is dairy farming in Europe or whatever. So yeah, that's the steps to take: feed, animal health, and after that, genetics.
Thank you, Gerard. What about you, Piet? Just in a few words, main opportunities for companies in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I fully agree with Gerard, of course. For us, from our perspective, it's especially the first item that Gerard mentioned. So growing the roughage and also growing the raw materials for the commercial feed is really where there's a massive demand. And I think for me, together with animal health, that's the basic, and the rest will come later.
Clear. Thank you. Marijn?
With the risk of attracting competitors, but it might be interesting to manufacture and sell. The barrier to entry is high, but I think, I think we are at the moment the only one, or maybe one of a few, that are actually producing at a very high quality level. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for the Ethiopian consumer to experience high quality dairy products. They are investigating. They're more and more open to influence from outside Ethiopia, so they understand about food security, food safety. So there is an interesting opportunity to provide high quality products. So that's on the manufacturing part. But personally, I think the bigger opportunity at this moment and in the coming 5 years is in the supply of raw milk. Like I said, we work with a lot of local smallholder farmers, but the difficulty of getting the right quality and consistency of supply levels is tough. And I always say I actually prefer to have 10 more alphas in this country because the quality is very good, the management is very good in terms of just having a good relationship, and it also creates a lot of labor. It creates a lot of spots for local people to work there, and I think that might be, from the impact side, even more interesting than helping smallholder farmers with 5 cows, because they will, I personally believe, people will do better when they work for a good company with a steady salary and getting trainings and learnings on the job, rather than maintaining their 5 cows and supplying it to Holland Dairy. So I think with the knowledge that we have as a country, and especially probably also the people in this call on dairy technology, I think the by far the biggest opportunity at this moment is dairy farming and supplying it.
Thank you so much. And your last point, Marijn, I fully agree with you. It's also to look more to the specialized commercial farmers. We come back on that also in the session with Rinus after this. I saw that there are a few questions coming in, and please, Sander, support me a bit what kind of question, but one of them I saw, it's about cooperatives, the role of dairy cooperatives in Ethiopia. Who wants to say something about that, about the cooperatives? For example, Marijn, do you work closely with cooperatives? Are you, Piet, in dairy?
Yeah, maybe to start off very quickly, yes. I think smallholder farmers are organizing themselves more and more in cooperatives. I think it's a good thing because their position becomes stronger. And it's also an interesting thing for us because then we can buy basically in bulk. The other more negative thing is that one smallholder farmer that uses antibiotics the wrong way can just spoil a whole batch of supply for a day. So there's pros and cons there. I think the support, for example, we try to aim to work with cooperatives that also work with, for example, SNV or another NGO to get proper support from that side as well.
Thank you, Marijn.
Thank you, Meeuwes. I do, in terms of the time, indeed, I would propose, because we do want to address all the questions raised, and we actually see a lot of new questions coming in, but I also understand that, Marijn, you also have to leave. So what I would propose is that, anyway, thank you so much for this open also reflection, and again an informative reflection as well. I think that also with the presentation for Rinus, some of the questions that have been asked in the Q&A might be answered, but for the panelists, Piet, Marijn, Gerard, Embassy, please, if I may ask you, if you can see some of these answers, these questions being raised, and whether you could answer some of the questions already in the Q&A. If that you can do that, that would be very helpful. And then I would propose to move on to the next part of the webinar. For this, again, thank you, everybody. I think that we are now going into a bit of more depth. For this, I would like to give the floor to Rinus van Klinken from SNV.
Good morning. I'm not sure whether you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you and we see the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, my computer has problems, so I also joined just now. So I may be repeating some of the issues that have already been mentioned, but my apologies. And if the slides, then I would appreciate. Okay. At least my slide has not moved yet.
So we are now looking at the slide of the overview of the bridge program.
Oops, then I'm sorry. Then okay. Let me try and see how I can talk through the my presentation without seeing the screen, because I have a different screen. But the briefly, the bridge project is funded by the Netherlands government. We are a 5-year project ending in 2023. The main, because I hope we can move on to the next slide. Let me see how I can.
I'll just give you sometimes an update, Rinus. So now we're looking at the slide about, basically see the Ethiopian map with the dairy sector bridge and the ADAP.
Yeah, I'm actually, just give me 2 seconds. Yeah, okay, so my presentation has three components.
Rinus, if you can hear me, sorry, but I cannot hear you at this given moment. We are still, you were just saying that your presentation has 3 components. We will wait a little bit for you to come back online. So I think the connection is currently challenging. In the meantime, please bear with us until we're trying to get in touch with Rinus and to try to solve this issue. In the meantime, maybe we can also use this opportunity to just briefly discuss one pending question of Barakat, also now partly looking to you, Meeuwes. Barakat has been asking a question that the feed issue is a challenge, and he's specifically asking whether there's any work to ease this feed shortage problem. Are there any large-scale investments, some large-scale initiatives that are currently on the way? Meeuwes, do you know of any of these initiatives?
Now, first of all, I would like to share that for this challenge, we are in close contact with the Ethiopian Ministry of Agriculture, with the current state minister, Dr. Fikru. We have try to discuss together with him how we can ease the lack of high quality feed. At the same time, I think there is also awareness in what way, for example, we can make use also of other sources of animal feed, for example, to make use of certain alternatives, like at the moment there is a project ongoing to make use of active yeast from the beer breweries here in Ethiopia. That is an example where the Dutch government and the economic top sector agri-food is in from the Dutch government side. But also you can think of other sources like the sugar industry and so on. We also plan as an agricultural team to organize, hopefully if COVID allows, before the end of the year, a high-level agriculture working group meeting in The Hague. And this means there will be a meeting between the ministries of agriculture from the Ethiopian side and the Dutch side. And here we will also discuss certain technical details. Feed, I believe, is certain part of the agenda. And maybe we can see together how Dutch experts can help to improve the quality of animal feed in Ethiopia. Just to mention a few. Maybe Piet, you want to add also something on this question?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's the challenge there is twofold. One is there is high quality commercial feed available in Ethiopia, but the issue is the access to that feed. I mentioned already this 15% VAT. That is really makes it difficult for, especially for smallholder farmers, to start trying commercial feed. When they see the benefits of the commercial feed, they will remain our customer because they see the milk production going up, they see better quality of milk. So one issue is the access, and secondly, to high quality feed, but there's also the limited supply. So that is because we have limited inputs to make commercial feed. That needs resolved, and indeed we take all these initiatives like Meeuwes mentioned to use alternative sources from like for example byproducts from the food industry to have a bigger supply of commercial feed. I think the second item is about the roughage, so that is about the feed that we're not producing, but of course is also essential. And there also it's an issue of quality and quantity of supply. So there is a lot of investments already going into this. However, more needs to be done, also by others.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for this reflection. I would again apologize everybody for the connection issues. We have been trying to get a hold, but unfortunately it has not happened. We have now been answering most of the questions. If you have any questions, again, please do not hesitate to ask them in the Q&A. In the meantime, we would already like to jump to the next part, and I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Malet Desi to talk more about the upcoming ALEC event.
Thank you. So good morning, everybody. So I would like to I'm not seeing the screen. Okay, so I'm going to present just a few slides about activities that as the Netherlands Embassy, we have planned for 2021, for this year. And I will mainly focus on the dairy one. But to start from, I think Meeuwes has already mentioned a few about our activities, but to just start from the more generic one, what are we doing as the agriculture team within the Netherlands Embassy? Ethiopia is one of the priorities of the Netherlands, or the priority countries in Africa and the Netherlands. As you can see from the graph, there's a lot of trade that's going on between the two countries. And of course, there are a lot of investments, over 85 investments in Ethiopia from the Netherlands because of the high opportunities that are there. And we as the agriculture team, reporting to the Ministry of Agriculture, Nature and Food Quality in the Netherlands, we have works to have a bilateral relationship between the two countries, or we try to promote and foster these bilateral relationships between the two countries in agriculture, but also we work to support private sector agro-businesses, Dutch agro-businesses in Ethiopia to have a more sustainable agro-industry. And as Meeuwes mentioned, the 3 or 4 priority sectors, these are the poultry one, agro-logistics, horticulture, but also dairy is one of the high potential areas that we think that can have an impact, both in terms of technology transfer from the Netherlands, but also opportunities in Ethiopia for the Dutch private sector. So we have activities to support investments into 2021 that we have planned. One of these is a government-to-government support to really support investors have a better market access, but also support them in elevating few challenge or challenge in the policy areas. So this is from the ministry to ministry type of support.
but also to have to achieve our ministry's vision in terms of sustainable agriculture and entrepreneurship. We also provide various information to the Dutch private sector. This business opportunity report, that was the summary of it was presented earlier, but also we support the development of market studies and others to create knowledge about the opportunities and challenges in Ethiopia. But also we try to inform the Dutch private sector through our monthly newsletters. You can always sign up for those, but also through our ministry's website, Agro-Britain Buitenland website. We try to inform you about the policy developments, about sector developments and market developments that are happening in Ethiopia. We also have plans to organize sessions in the Netherlands to actually come to you as well, to inform you about the business opportunities, but also the challenges and how we can support each other on this. We also have activities called the impact clusters. We're working one on poultry, but hopefully next year we will have one on dairy as well. This is a collaboration model whereby Dutch companies that would like to have a market in Ethiopia coming together to actually get market access, but also to transfer knowledge and technology to the smallholder farmers or to commercial farmers here in Ethiopia. So this type of impact clusters we also develop with our partners from RVO. Another one is trade promotions and support. And that's also one of the things that I would like to mention in my next slide. We try to facilitate and provide support to the Netherlands companies on a case-by-case basis. As you saw from the video as well, companies can feel free to reach out to us when there are challenges they're facing in terms of bureaucracy, which there is a lot of in Ethiopia, but also on other issues. But also, as you can see from this slide, there are various trade promotion platforms that are organized in Ethiopia, exhibitions and conferences, and we try to participate in this and support Dutch companies to participate in such platforms so that they can get a better market access and a better market in Ethiopia, but also see if there are investment opportunities here as well. So one of these platforms is the African Livestock Exhibition Congress that is organized on an annual basis in Ethiopia. This year in October 28th up to the 30th, it is planned to take place in Addis Ababa. And we had a bit of a communication with most of you with regards to this event. It's a specific livestock sector specific event. It attracts various players, both global, regional, and professionals in the livestock sector from all over the world. I tried to also show you that in 2019, when it was last held, 114 exhibitors from 26 countries were present. It is an event that is utilized mainly to boost company profile, but also if you're interested in Ethiopia, to generate leads with government influential individuals, but also business partners, business owners. It's a good platform to communicate and to really bring your business to Ethiopia. It's a good platform to participate in. That's why we also wanted to focus on ALEC, on the Africa Livestock Exhibition Conference this year. Because of COVID and other issues, some events that we wanted to have are not going to take place, but the event is still going on, and we have revolving around ALEC a few activities. I have the website underneath. I don't know if you can see it, but africanlivestock.net is the website, and you can please feel free to see it. It's on October 28th and up to the 30th if you're able to visit Ethiopia in person. Next slide, please. So the dairy activities mainly revolving around ALEC you can find on the right-hand side of your screen. On the left-hand side, you can see some of the dairy activities that we have that are being supported by the Netherlands Embassy for this year. Bridge, that was Venus's part, which you were not able to hear, but it is in the video as well. It is a program that is being implemented by SNV and Wageningen University to support the production of affordable and accessible, quality, nutritious dairy products. It supports both smallholder farmers, but also commercial farmers. So one of the activities that we do is on Bridge, but another one is the development of the business opportunity report, as you saw, and also this webinar to create awareness. And you can always, as Sandra also mentioned, you can get the video of this, but also the business opportunity report available for you. For revolving ALEC, we had planned to have a national pavilion, which we could not find a large number of interested participants from the Dutch side, of course, because of ongoing issues, which is understandable, but we were not able to have a national pavilion this year. Maybe next year we will have it. We are planning to have matchmaking events to create a platform for interested Dutch companies to link with Ethiopian counterparts, but also Ethiopian business partners at the conference. So please feel free. There's a survey that we're going to send out right after this webinar. If you're interested in the matchmaking, please feel free to sign up. We're working very closely with TRAIDE to have the matchmaking at the ALEC conference. There's also an international conference that's being organized by Bridge. So please, it's the ESAP, the Ethiopian Society of Animal Production. It's an annual conference. You can always be a part of that if you are participating at ALEC. There's also a networking event that we'll be a part of as the bigger part of the ALEC event. We plan to sponsor and promote the Netherlands and the activities the Netherlands companies are doing in this session. And then this will also give you an opportunity to link with the partners in the sector, in the dairy sector, but also a bit larger in the livestock sector. So opportunities to meet decision makers is also there at the networking event. We plan to have a field visit. You have to sign up for that as well, but we plan to, based on the demand or based on the need, we plan to have a factory or a farm visit, just so that you can experience how the Dutch companies are operating in Ethiopia. I hope the video actually showed you a bit of that, but if you're in Addis and part of the ALEC, then we will be very happy to have a tour for you organized to show you firsthand how Dutch companies operate in Ethiopia. Don't forget to fill the survey to not only to show your interest, but also to see what your comment is on the webinar. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this reflection, Malet. Yeah, just again to indeed reiterate what Malet is saying, the survey will be sent after this session, and your input is going to be highly appreciated, not only to evaluate this webinar, but also with this survey, you can ask any pending questions, you can indicate what your needs might be, and especially if you are interested in any of these follow-up activities or potentially of doing business in Ethiopia, you can always indicate this. As a follow-up, what we will do, and that's also where the embassy and the trade program and the ENLBA will work very closely with you, is try to see how we can help with your aspirations and your ambitions of trying to invest and doing business with Ethiopia. That said, we would like to move towards the wrap-up of this session. Before I give the floor to Meeuwes, I'm at least looking back to a relatively good session apart from the internet connection. So again, apologies for that part. We have been trying to address most of your questions. Because we're wrapping up, what we will do afterwards is please also, we'll try to answer your questions in the chat box, and also if not answered, please raise them in the survey. So that being said, also unfortunately, we couldn't see the SNV presentation. We'll also make sure to be able that if you want to get more information, that you can access that. And we're also gonna share the business opportunity report with you after this. Thank you again. Mr. Meeuwes, would you like to conclude the session, reflect on today's webinar and wrap up for today?
Thank you very much, Sander. Dear participants, I hope you found our webinar on the developments and opportunities in the dairy value chain in Ethiopia useful. Once more, sorry for the inconvenience with the internet connection. It's always a challenge between the Netherlands and Ethiopia. But I hope we shared a lot of information. And I think my main conclusion is, we heard that also during one of the earlier sessions we had on Eastern Africa, that Ethiopia is a dairy giant who is starting to awake. And I think this is the right moment to look and to follow the dairy development in Ethiopia quite closely. It has been already said, I don't going to repeat them, but there are opportunities as well as challenges in the Ethiopian dairy sector. But these challenges also gives possibilities for the Dutch agribusiness, for the knowledge and research institutes to work with Ethiopia, as well for us as a government, as embassy, as ministry, to see where we can support the Ethiopian dairy sector, where we can support the Ethiopian government to develop an efficient and sustainable dairy sector. The SNV Bridge Dairy Program is, in my opinion, very interesting once more, because there is a focus on these more specialized and commercial dairy farms. They are now working on the selection of almost 150, 200 dairy farmers, and to support them in to make their dairy farm more efficient. And I think this is an opportunity, possibilities for Dutch companies to follow this closely, and maybe they can work together with these farms. Malet already mentioned, this is not only this webinar, we give follow-up, there is more to come, not only this year, but also for next year's. So please, I hope we will stay in contact and we will see each other. I hope to meet you and welcome you in Addis at the end of October during the ALEC exhibition. I would like to finalize this webinar by thanking all, first of all, the panel members for sharing their experiences and their knowledge with us all. I would also thank the TRAIDE Foundation, our friends who made this webinar possible. And last but not least, of course, you all participants. Your participation shows that you are interested in dairy in Ethiopia, and that also motivates us as an embassy to continue. Thank you so much, and wish you all the best and success in your future business activities.